I'll tell you one other thing that I got to see in this game. The 49ers have a number one sack guy. His name's Nick Bosa, right? But their number two sack guy is Javon Hargrave. And Javon Hargrave has a total of 0 sacks in the postseason. He had 0 last week against Detroit.
In 8 quarters of football, the nicest thing we can say about Javon Hargrave's postseason is I think we might have used his name once. That's it. He's done nothing. He's done nothing in this postseason yet.
Well, not only that, he's only had 1 sack in the last 7 games. That's half a season. He's got 7 on the year, but he's only had 1 in the last 7 games. He's got to be a force inside. They gave this cat $40 million. He's got to show up. He's got to show up. This was their big free agent signing. He cannot get shut out. He's got to be better against the run. He's got to get some heat on the quarterback. He's got to make some of that cash right here, right now. This is it.
Nick Bosa may not be delivering the sack total that you want to see in the box score, but you still see Nick Bosa in the football game. Like, there he is behind the line of scrimmage. There he is doing his level best to disturb that play behind the line of scrimmage. There he is moving the pocket. There's Nick Bosa picking up a holding call. Like, you still see and feel Nick Bosa in these games, even though he hasn't been getting home. You haven't seen or felt Hargrave at all this postseason. He has not been a part of it. But for a play to the positive and then the negative play that everyone is so thoroughly highlighted about Chase Young dogging it on the Gibbs 15-yard touchdown run for the Detroit Lions, we haven't seen or really used his name much at all. So, yeah, there is a huge defensive line. Let's finally show up to a football game that you guys are playing an element here. But, Steve Wilks' defense really is. It's built from that back to the front. And maybe that's been a little bit of the odd relationship that Steve Wilks has had with his own defense. He's a back to the front defensive coordinator, where the 49ers are built more front to back as a defense with the strength of that offensive line. I saw this, Larry. I was kind of surprised by this because you and I both think Talanoa Hufanga is really good. And you and I also both think that Ji'Ayir Brown is a pretty decent replacement, all things considered, right? Logan Ryan less so. Well, how about this? Since Talanoa Hufanga got hurt back in week 12, San Francisco's defensive ranks 23rd in EPA, expected points added, and that doesn't even include the throwaway game for everyone that was week 18. They're 20th on dropbacks after ranking no worse than 5th over the first 11 weeks. 4 of the last 5 Niners opponents have generated a positive EPA after only 4 of the first 14 opponents had a positive number. So Talanoa Hufanga's absence is something that I think we've tried to dismiss or say it's been addressed by Ji'Ayir Brown, maybe the Logan Ryan signing, although that's looked less and less like it's been helpful. Talanoa Hufanga's absence has really hurt this defense. I think it's time that we admit it.
Well, there's no question. He's a super smart guy. I do think Ji'Ayir Brown's more physical in the run game than Talanoa, but Talanoa was really great at reading. He's like a coach on the field. He's one of the smartest football players on their defense. So, he was around the ball a lot. He made big plays. He's not a fast guy, but man, he's so heady. He was always flowing in the right direction. He was great at attacking the mesh point when teams were in obvious run formations and run downs. He would trust his eyes and just go and attack that mesh point and create negative plays. So, yeah, Hufanga is, to miss him is significant. Absolutely.
By the way, you know what, Larry? I'm going to do. Sometimes Ray would be talking, and I'm like, Ray, you're going to have to explain that to the audience. No one knows that vocabulary word except me and sometimes I didn't even know it. So I would say that for him to explain it so I understood it too. When you say mesh point, Larry, I know that there's someone out there saying, "What do you mean mesh point?" I know what you mean, but tell the people what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, just the point at when the quarterback and the running back come together to hand off the ball, that is the mesh point. And sometimes it's a handoff, and sometimes it's a play action fake, right? But when the quarterback is putting the ball in the gut of the running back, whether the running back's keeping it or the quarterback's keeping it, that is the mesh point. And so Huanga, at his best, is one of the most unbelievable players in the league at just, you know what? I don't know if that's going to be a run or a pass, but if I can get to the mesh point as it's happening, I can interrupt the whole thing. And it doesn't matter what they're going to do. It doesn't matter if they're planning on passing it or running it. I'm right there. I'm attacking it. And for the RPO game, which is the run pass option, where you sometimes have the mesh point where the quarterback's literally, he's not turning his back and handing it off. The running back's running in front. You know, that's a big, let's hold the linebackers. Let's freeze the defense. Well, how do you defend that? You defend that by having a safety that just attacks that moment and forces that decision. And he's great at it. I mean, it's uncanny how often he can time that and get there right as the quarterback is either keeping it or handing it off, and either coming away with a sack or a gigantic tackle for a loss. It's a real skill. Ji'Ayir Brown, on the other hand, is bigger and more physical and faster, and he's got a great nose for the football as well, but he'll hit you like a linebacker. So they have different skills and weaknesses. Hufanga's a little bit more trustworthy. Brown's a little bit more of a hitter force, player against the run. And Hufanga's also got great ball skills. He had 10 interceptions each of his last 2 years at Penn State. So, I believe in Brown. I think the moment's not too big for him, and I expect him to play well. In fact, I would say this: if you're looking for just like a sleeper bet, Huanga would be a great call for a sleeper bet to win the MVP.
Ji'Ayir Brown, you mean?
Yeah, I mean Ji'Ayir Brown. I said Huanga. Ji'Ayir Brown, because Ji'Ayir Brown.
You get great odds on Talanoa Hufanga right now, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get great odds on Ji'Ayir Brown, but I mean, Ji'Ayir Brown could wind up. I mean, think about the way this game could go. They're going to run Pacheco a lot. Why? Because the Niner run defense on the numbers says, hey, you can. I mean, Detroit just ran for ridiculous yards, 180 yards or whatever it was. So they're going to run it a lot early. So Brown's a great run defender, and he's very aggressive. So he can wind up, Damon, with 8, 9, 10, 12 tackles in the run game. But then if the Niners offense can have success and get a lead, and Kansas City's coming from behind it all in the second half, you could have a guy like Huanga or like Brown with a pick or two because he's got such a great nose for the ball. So you could look up in this game and have Niner weapons, all the numbers kind of spread throughout Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, and they all have good but not special numbers, which is kind of the way it goes in this offense. But Ji'Ayir Brown could wind up with 12 tackles and 2 picks and be the MVP. So you might be able to get, some ridiculous odds on Ji'Ayir Brown as the MVP. He'd be a live bet in my mind.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Damon Bruce for my friend Larry Kruger, who obviously is already drinking. If he's really recommending going ahead and plunking down.
Well, you could put down $5 and make a ton.
Right. I understand what you're saying. The chances of him being named Super Bowl MVP are basically infinitesimal. But yes.
But that's a great prop.
A path to his, a gaudy total of tackles and a couple of interceptions. Yes, but it would take nothing short of that for him to do it. I've seen a few other long shot bets come in and reported in a few places. A better with DraftKings put $25,000 on Isaiah Pacheco to be named Super Bowl MVP. He's going off at 40-1. By the way, $25,000 at 40-1 would pay a cool $1 million. 15,000.
Malcolm Smith, by the way, remember that for the former Niner, the Seahawk? He won the Super Bowl MVP.
Yes, he did. He did.
Larry Brown won the Super Bowl MVP.
It's happened.
It's happened. It usually goes to the quarterback.
Look at it this way. If a safety wins the Super Bowl MVP, I can all but guarantee you the Raiders are going to give him way too much money in his next contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? $15,000 to win $975,000. This is 15 on Rashee Rice going off to be MVP at 65-1. That would be a huge upset, and that's something that the 49ers simply cannot allow. We've